Marshall Newhouse is back. He was with us last year. We talked great, heady conversation about O-line play. I remember I learned a lot last year, Marshall. So one Super Bowl champion to another. You were 45, right? So we just had Super Bowl 50 with TJ Ward. XLV, 45 with the Packers. Your guy, Mike McCarthy, who notoriously got you fitted for the rings before the game, is now coaching the team that you played. What did you think about that hire?
I like the hire a lot. Listen, I understand that the Steelers are a different kind of organization, and Mike has a lot of ties there, but it just feels right. Yeah. And obviously, it comes down to how much has he progressed as a coach and as a leader of an organization. So we'll see about that. But we got to a lot of us kind of had a mini reunion for the Super Bowl team in Green Bay week 1 against Detroit, and got to talk to Mike, and he still had the itch. You could tell he was still locked in, was still evaluating, and so I'm happy he's going to get this opportunity, and he's bringing in some familiar faces. And I think, again, it fits with the prestige and the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so we'll see kind of what he's learned from an offensive play caller, from a game manager standpoint, from building an actual culture and how you go about the week, all those little things when you're the head coach. We'll see what he's learned, but I like the fit there.
What's his best trait as a head coach in your memory?
He's authentic, man. Like, I think players respond to that. He respects your kind of agency as a grown man. Obviously, rookies are rookies, and you're young. You got to earn your place. But when you become a veteran, a guy who he can trust, there's a lot of mutual respect there. And I think he's usually the same guy that shows up, and you know what you're going to get. And I enjoyed my time in Green Bay when he was there, and so I think Pittsburgh's going to get that. Listen, the guys in Dallas, I think, still liked him. They won a lot of games that end up not working out there long term, but there's a lot to be said for his history as a head coach.
So I think I asked you last year, you played under James Campen in Green Bay, correct? And then you go and play under Dante Scarnecchia in New England.
Yeah.
And this week, a big story around the NFL is Jeff Stoutland leaving the Eagles.
Yeah.
So these iconic O-line coaches. What's the difference, as a guy who played for a lot of different teams, a lot of O-lines, what's the difference between having one of those elite O-line coaches that's been around forever and maybe someone who's not so great or experienced?
Yeah, listen, I've been covering the Raiders. We're doing a podcast this year, and they're on the opposite of that spectrum. They had a guy named Brennan Carroll, who was Pete Carroll's son, who I think they're left a lot to be desired from the performance on the offensive line, and I think that's directly correlated to the type of guy and his approach to that position. And it goes beyond, listen, you need talent. All coaches will say you need talent first, but there's a level of buy-in and understanding what works and where guys need to go. And listen, we're all different. I'm literally built different than every guy on the line, so you can't treat us all the same as far as getting him in position from my stance and my feet and my takeoff and my combo blocks. But coaches who understand that, I think, have the best opportunity to impact the team. Stoutland, I think, is a guy who, from drafting and developing Lane Johnson to picking and developing Jordan Mailata, has a lot of experience understanding what does a guy do well, how do we build scheme around that, and how do I get him locked in to doing what he does best at an elite level. And that, to me, is the difference between some of these O-line coaches who are usually not household names, and I don't think they want to be or need to be, but a good one, I think, will take your offense to another level.
Well, and I think maybe Mailata is the best example of O-line coaching, because you can draft Penei Sewell, who's the top tag, and you can coach him up and you can help him grow and become a better player. But to take a guy, Mailata was he was an Aussie. I can't remember if it was Aussie rules football or rugby.
Yeah, it was like it was rugby.
Yeah, like that's a body, that's a guy I can coach, and turned him in just a stud.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see if he latches on somewhere else or what he ends up doing.
It seems like he still is intending to coach. This was not a retirement announcement. This was I'm just not gonna listen. I don't get into all the gossip in the news, but it just feels like the Sirianni regime is having some holes in it a little bit. So I think they're hiring a Sean Mannion. I think maybe played a part in that too. So I think he still plans on coaching, and I think whoever gets him will get an elite offensive line coach.
Philly's a unique scenario, and I don't know why. I'm not asking you to gossip or anything, but just as an outsider, I'm like, so in most franchises, when you have a catastrophic year, things go sideways, you start with the head coach. And in Philly, it's like they start with the coordinators.
Yeah.
Those two are, well, in Fangio's position now, but even before then, it was, after, and I can't remember who was before Patricia. Well, I guess it was Gannon.
It was Gannon,
They just rotate through those coordinators, and Sirianni kind of remains the one. It's very unique. It doesn't happen like that in most places.
Is very unique, and I wonder the actual long-term value of Sirianni, because you think of a coach and their impact on a team, and it's like, all right, what unit are they most influenced over, and is that continually to get better, or is that a unit that you can rely on? And I look at Sirianni, I'm like, well, what does he in control of that continually improves? And I can't answer that question. So then you're like, oh, then you go through Kellen Moore, you go through all these coordinators on offense and defense, and you're like, oh, he's the one guy remaining. It's very interesting.
So I've asked a couple of guests this week who their favorite hire was of this cycle. There was 10 of them. And most people said Jesse Minter. So if you want to talk about Jesse Minter, we can, but is there another name in this cycle that you really like, you think maybe is under-discussed?
I like the Jesse Minter hire, but I genuinely, even though I covered them this year, the Clint Kubiak hire to me is going to make the Raiders an instant contender, and I think a long-term contender in the AFC West and the AFC. Listen, the better part of 30 years have just had very little real stability and winning for such a historic franchise. And I think some of that has come from just kind of a level of short-sightedness and a level of not having a set identity, even though, with the Raiders, it's tough, it's this, it's that, but that also has to trickle down to kind of how you evaluate players and all that stuff. And I just don't think they've had that in a while. The Clint Kubiak hire, to me, along with the Spytek Tom Brady influence, I think signals a new reset for the Raiders to really kind of build something sustainable and go for it. Obviously, it matches up with having the #1 overall pick, having a QB who feels like he's going to be a good pick, having a lot of cap space and a lot of headwinds all lined up. That's a big deal. And I think Clint Kubiak, you don't hear about him a lot. He's not known as a demonstrative coach, but all things I've heard behind the scenes as he gets a lot of buy-in from players, and he's very transparent, he's very authentic, and I think absolutely can lead a locker room of men. And so I think the Raiders made a really good hire there.
Marshall Newhouse is here. One last question before I let you go. So the Packers could be, we don't know for sure, but it looks like they're going to have a new left tackle, a new center, maybe a new right guard. Like there could be 2, 3, maybe even 4 changes on this O-line into next year. So what can the Packers, what do they have to do this offseason when you're changing so many spots? What's important in making sure that you can hit the ground running and your offensive line isn't an issue?
Yeah, I think that's going to be paramount. And I think, listen, depending on what they're looking for in a draft or free agency, they've never been a big free agent offensive line ad team, and so it feels like there's usually answers from within, but they've got to support Jordan Love. I think you're still bought in on him being your guy. He's still a top quarterback, and then you bring LaFleur back, you got to bring the whole gang back, and so there's got to be a level of stability that you then build from the inside out, and that comes with finding guys who can then produce for you at the end of the season. The Green Bay Packers are usually in contention at the end of the season, but it's felt like recently things have slowly fell apart in one way or the other. I think also, listen, it can't be skipped over that they've had just a putrid special teams unit. You can say that that's not as important as offensive defense, but the best teams that I know have at least top 15, top half of the in special teams. And so you couple that with rebuilding from the inside out, finding guys who can adapt quickly and who Jordan Love can work around, and you work around their strengths, I think is going to be paramount. And again, you're Goody and LaFleur to sign extension. So that's who you got. And we'll see who they target in the draft. And maybe they bring in a guy that they've done it more than when I was there, but maybe they bring in a guy in free agency to kind of anchor things, a veteran guard or a veteran tackle, and really get Jordan Love comfortable so that he could take even another step.
Well, we also don't blame coaches or general managers or whatever when things don't go right. I've also watched the Packers, like some of their alignment just have bad games. Game. It's like Zach Tom just can't have his worst game of the year.
It's not even the bad games. It's like this Packers unit the last 2 or 3 years, they never have good games at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating part, because they're talented enough to win and make playoff runs, but it just doesn't feel like it all happens at the right time.
Yeah.
And so, some of that is just the way you prepare and how you call games. But players eventually just have to kind of produce and be on the same page.
You got to go out and win the game when the game starts.
Yes.
And the coaches, the general manager can't always do that. Marshall Newhouse, I appreciate it. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back here at Radio Row. Thanks to Flipside Pub and Grill. Be right back.